Hey guys, so I figured the audio might not be too good now that I noticed the speakers on the bottom, but I wanted to talk about the South American pink tide as it is known. Essentially, what that was a democratic movement of the people that started to take hold of governments in South America. Now, what the history of South America looks like is literally Indian civilizations from the Incas, the Mayas, the Aztecs, the Olmecs, the Lempas, you know, and then conquistadors is the next age. Essentially, European countries, particularly the Spanish at first, in South America went down. Right, we have Pizarro taking over or invading the Inca Empire. We have the Hernan Cortez in 1521 invading Mexico, aka at the time the Aztlan or the Aztec Empire, more accurately. Um, so once we get through those stages, we get the church taking hold of these governments and being really a proxy for the exploitation and subservient behavior that really took place here from the indigenous in service to the European powers. You have the military and you have the church. If you notice, even in today's church, you have a military chaplain in many countries. So, just something to think about. Okay, those colonial, imperialist, capitalist relationships continue to this day. So back to the pink tide. Essentially, you have the hero of South America right now. Unfortunately, rest in peace to the man, but it was Hugo Chavez. Hugo Chavez in 1990, in in Venezuela in 1988, there was what was known as El Caracazo. Now, the capital of Venezuela is Caracas. So what happened was the economy was uh, in such despair and disrepair, right? Because capitalism, in essence, has to eat itself to continue to evolve itself, right? That's why clearly I'm an anti-capitalist. Anyone that's a capitalist doesn't understand what capitalism really does, what capitalism means, and how it's able to maintain its power across the globe. Okay, we'll get into further videos about that because obviously that's a huge topic that would require a lot. But in a sense, in '88, there was a government that ended up going out on the streets, and because there was civil unrest, the people were out on the street protesting the economic and the political situation they were in. The government came out and actually started shooting, killing people. Thousands of people were killed. The numbers we still don't officially know. That was in '88. In 1992, Hugo Chavez, along with a few uh, revolutionaries, came together, tried to do a revolutionary military coup on Venezuela because of what was going on, and unfortunately, it was unsuccessful. Now, when Chavez was captured, he said the immortal words, right, which were, they asked him to come out, let the troops know. He wanted to make sure there wasn't any more bloodshed. So he went on TV after, as the leader of the coup, and said, okay, you know what? We failed for now, and in Spanish, these words are immortal, and they are por ahora. Like we failed for now. And really though, that's when the political revolutionary movement started to happen in Venezuela. That's why when people start talking about revolution or reform or revolution, socialism or barbarism. Once again, it's a combination of both. And it depends on what country you're in, the culture you're in, the political strength you have, the political landscape, what the political field looks like, what power you have, what military power you have, right? If you're really about it. Um, and at the end of the day, it comes down to what organizational power you have. Because through your organizational power, that's where you're able to uh, either radicalize, mobilize, or um, influence certain dynamics, cultures, populations, contingents for revolutionary change. So the pink tide, once again, 7 minutes in, haven't really got into it because there's so much to cover, and I feel like I'll never really be able to cover it. You know, that's why I started making videos. Like in a lot of these videos are really test videos, just so you know. Like I'm really just talking to myself right at the end of the day, right? But so back to the pink tide. The pink tide, in essence, was the Argentine government, which was Nestor Kirchner, the Ecuadorian government, which was Rafael Correa, the Venezuelan government, led by Hugo Chavez, who, back to Hugo Chavez, because I'm getting ahead of myself, right? So, 88, you have, oh, Ben, I see some comments from Ben. Excellent. He's saying capitalism is unsustainable in artificial scarcity, while wealth is concentrated in the upper class. Infinite growth is impossible, and finite resources. I mean, I'll have to get through all. Damn, he's going off. That's awesome. I will definitely get through all those. Um, and in essence, Ben is right. Capitalism is unsustainable. That's the importance of socialism. Socialism is the economic theory that calls out capitalism. You see? That's why if you look at all the revolutionary movements that have happened, the first forces that go in are the most capitalist. Okay? The to go in to stop the base, to stop the political realignment, to stop the clergy, the social activists. So 88 you have Caracaso, 92 you have a coup by Chavez, right? Unsuccessful. In 1998, after years of organizing, see, that's one thing that's also missed in a lot of socialist movements. A lot of especially people that are new to socialism, they expect one vote and now revolution. Like a lot of these millennials with Bernie, they thought like they would go ahead and make one vote and now the world was going to change. No, that's not the way. Even if Bernie would have got elected and would have served his 8 years, trust me, we would have still been in capitalism. Okay, and then there would have been people just as disgruntled with Bernie as there are now with Obama because of his failures, right? And just as disgruntled with Clinton because of his failures, and just as disgruntled with Bush, and eventually the Republicans that believed in Trump will also be disillusioned. So Ben is going off, man. So I'm gonna go ahead and read some of Ben's comments because this is good practice for me. Like I said, this is more like a test, right? But Ben is saying a lot actually. I don't even know how he's. Damn, Ben is going off. This is gonna be actually a pleasure to read, guys. So, Pink Tide was a movement from the left in South America that was different from the status quo of America's control of South America. Okay? So that's what's key. So let me go back to those comments real quick because he's on point. All right, so and I'm gonna go ahead and just read it off because it looks like a system under capitalism. The economy must be democratized. Why obey dictatorial? Ah, great quote. Capitalists have gone to war with workers to maintain control of the means of production, massacres of unionizers, deaths from negligence and unsafe working conditions, all for greater profit. Capitalism, colonialism, and imperialism has killed hundreds of millions to 1600. From human slavery to wage slavery, the pursuit of profit has historically been a violent one. Great emojis too. I can't really describe the emojis. I mean, he had like a dead emoji with a bomb after the violent one. I mean, great stuff. And there's so many. Go through the comments, like his comments, spread his comments, make your own comments. Right? Capitalism creates a class system whereby wealth is concentrated in the hands of a few powerful capitalists. In 2017, the number one grabbed 82% of all wealth. How is that justifiable? Another fucking great point. The global working class must unite to overthrow the capitalist order. And then a fire and a Soviet Union sickle and cross and hammer, which is obviously our symbol, right, for revolutionary socialism. Not necessarily the Soviet Union, but right, it's either that or Che. I mean, right, or the Red Star. So I see you though. To create a more just society, as we face ecological doom, a revolution is needed now more than ever. Capitalism seems to always move easier than people. Refugees have a harder time escaping violence than a capitalist has hiding their money in the Caribbean. No countries, no borders, only solidarity. Great points. When resources dwindle, percent, while the rest of us are left to suffer in the wake of the destructive climate change. Borders won't matter. Banks are trying to scam the market. They create ever more complicated financial instruments and speculate on exploiting billions of dollars of the working class. 1%. Socialism is the only way to survive the future. We can't depend on massive corporations to save us all. Their interests climate change. The 1% hides away in their mansions. We should strive for a borderless world, one where people can move freely and our collective wealth can be shared for the betterment of all people. Why base giving on voluntarism and charity when so many are left and needs unfulfilled? Use the wealth of society, distribute it fairly, and give people what they need in to live fulfilling lives. And how do you measure success under capitalism? Anyways, it creates a society where gross excesses are celebrated and crushing poverty and exploitation is covered up. Is the obesity epidemic a success of capitalism? Food is less healthy. I will definitely have to do a video just about the pink tide, a concise video, because the reason I wanted to get into this video in particular is because of what's happening right now, what's happened in Uruguay, what's happened in Paraguay, what's happening right now in Brazil, and with Ignacio Lula da Silva and what they're doing to him. You know, they're trying to prevent him from running because they can't actually run against us when it comes to ideas, when it comes to solutions. They have to target us. They have to make sure that they lie about what we want to do. I mean, surplus profit needs justifications simply to exist. Think about that for a second, okay? Surplus profits that come from productive labor in juxtaposition to capital must justify its existence. Damn. All right. So And this video isn't to get deep into Marxism or Marxist Leninism or Chavismo, which is, I'm a Marxist Leninist Chavista because I understand it's not just revolution, it's not just reform, it's reform and revolution and other shit. Like, real talk. And there's so many ways for revolution, and we're missing so many avenues right now. And particularly, not just for, from people running in third parties that shouldn't be running in third parties, that should be running in the wave of this reform, you know, democratic socialist, tendency that's happening, to the unfortunate reality that just as happened to Ginger Jensen, right, in Minnesota, where the Democratic Party was getting their ass kicked just as she was running on rent control, on raising minimum wage. And yes, I know I'm not for a minimum wage. I want to abolish wage slavery and all that shit. But I'm just saying in relation to what's happening right now, to the point that the Democrats were literally asking the Green Party to get involved to try to take some of the third party energy that Ginger Jensen got running from Socialist Alternative. Okay, that's really, if the way we should do it is running through the Democratic Party, and then if we lose that, running through the Socialist Alternative. Like, that is a strategy that I have perhaps agreed with before, and but other than that, trying to run through the Green Party, which is technically run through an international organization, which is like pro-war in some countries, is pro other shit in other countries. Like, that shit is stupid. First off, the Green Party is not a socialist party. Okay, the Green Party is garbage. Okay, we need to get people out of that shit into an actual socialist alternative type party, a new socialism party, a new radical Marxist party, a workers party. I hate that kind of terminology. That workers shit gets co-opted, just like the word progressive gets co-opted. But here, let me go back to some comments real quick, because I already know Ben's probably just unloading. So it says we should have free healthcare for all, combining the systems of existing programs like Medicare and Medicaid. We should have free housing for all, filling this country's abundant empty houses with the homeless, and using public funds to construct new quality public housing. We should have all of these funded by massive wealth transfers from the rich and a reclamation of massive stores of private wealth. It is not like the filthy rich have earned their money anyway. And I laugh at that because it's true. Like, if you, and not you that know, but you that don't know, if you're just like a regular, you know, Democrat, you probably don't know there are not millions stashed away, not billions, that there are literally, he's talking. But even in the US, okay, the US is one of those tax havens. That's just, we don't get that part. We hear tax havens. No, the US is also a tax haven. Okay, let's not bullshit. Like, I mean, real talk. Let's keep it 100, right? All right. All right, so all right, get the rich with it's not like, all right, how to, let's see, it's not like the money, how to, or how do, I think he meant, how do the rich get their money? Let's think. Not hard. Ooh, this is gonna be fun. If that were true, why aren't farm laborers often exploited immigrants, the wealthiest people? And that has to do with, obviously, how people say that those that work, if you work hard, okay, you'll be able to pull yourself up from your bootstraps, sir. That shit is bullshit. When in reality, some motherfuckers like Donald Trump are born with fucking gold-plated fucking solid gold boots with fucking the big handles. His handles are like right here and shit. It's like when he needs to pull himself up, he goes like this. And compared to motherfuckers that don't even got shoes. Motherfuckers talking boots, motherfuckers are barefoot. living under motherfucking bridges, under freeway overpasses. I mean, that's capitalism. All right, so where do they get the riches? All right, riches anyways. They inherit generational wealth from their parents, earning money through make-believe speculative stuff like stocks. Jeff Bezos didn't earn 100 billion. Nobody should ever have that much wealth in their name, and that is true. In fact, I heard that Jeff Bezos makes, check, if you have less than $1,000 in your bank account, hold on to your seat. This motherfucker makes $250 million a motherfucking day. Take a swig on that. How is it even possible, let alone moral? Because we know that billionaireism is not moral. Period. See, that's another thing too. They don't want you to think about that. They want you to equate being wealthy with being successful, with being smart, with being brilliant, having this aura around money. Fuck money. Honestly, fuck money. Money is a form of exchange for services as we see it in this society. But that's not all that it'll be. Okay? Like let's be real. 200 over 250 million dollars a fucking day this motherfucker makes. Motherfucker has contracts with fucking the Washington with the Washington Post. By contracts, I mean he bought that shit, so he owns it. He has cooperative agreements, which are technically more like contracts with the CIA. Motherfucker is storing their information on Amazon's cloud. Motherfucker is storing CIA's information on his cloud. Like that's what we're talking about, right? So when it comes to all that, billionaireism is basically immoral. Okay, if I would make billionaireism illegal, period, I would make that shit illegal. There would be no billionaires in my society. I mean, and we can get into my society. I gotta fucking write a book about that shit. And maybe have Ben, because Ben is a fucking, look at this one. Ben is a literal fucking beast. Yeah, I mean, he's probably written more words than I've said in this whole YouTube live. And once again, pardon the amateur nature of my YouTube live, because this is really a test. I want to see how this goes. I'm not really familiar with the way it functions. It took me a day to even get on the live. Once you like say you want to do the live, it does a 24-hour some kind of verification check. So that being said, let me go ahead and get through all his comments. I don't know how many more he's added, but let me just, I mean, they can't be too many more. So it says, so Jeff Bezos didn't earn 100 billion. Nobody should ever have that much wealth in their name. His fortune is from work he doesn't do. Brutalized warehouse workers and imaginary stocks. He is also desperate to protect his riches, which could buy every home in Seattle with billions left over that he intimidated public officials over a tiny tax fund shelter for the homeless. Fucking great point. So once again, like I told you, socialist alternative. See, if we aren't talking Marxist Leninism, Chavismo, socialist movements, it's a lost cause. As soon as you're talking progressive, the opportunists, the revisionists will take over that shit. We do not have the money on our side to be able to combat the fucking ABC, NBC, MSNBC, Fox News, the Voice of America, every single small right wing channel. The radio fucking gone. I don't even want to say radio. The radio is gone. That shit is controlled by all these right wing motherfuckers. We can't do shit on that shit, right? That goes back to the 80s when Reagan eliminated the fairness doctrine. Okay, then you have Clinton. Okay, so you have the Republicans in the 80s doing that to the fairness doctrine. Then you have Clinton in the late 90s coming in with the Communications Act, completely eliminating safeguards, allowing these multi-billionaire bourgeois capitalists to consolidate. Now I think we have like 6 media companies that really own the whole shit. I haven't even, it's probably like 5 now or 4. It's fucking ridiculous the way um, everything has moved from having a voice to literally having your voice bought out by these billionaires and their anchors working with and within political campaigns, just like Hillary Clinton did. You had Hillary Clinton being interviewed by people that were working for her campaign, kind of shit. They didn't disclose that shit. You have her investigations into her emails. Motherfuckers that had no access to the emails because they privatized that shit, and they had some private company called CrowdStrike that had possession of that. So now that's the way you have to go. You have to go through them because what the this is some bullshit. Like we live in an alternate universe. But once again, socialist alternative made a move. They were able to get some of these city council people to move their way, and at the end, money's too strong. In fact, if I was a capitalist, I'd have like the Live Strong and Boston Strong and all that shit strong. My shit would be money strong because these motherfuckers just don't play. Okay, and Ben, thank you for bringing that shit up. And the cherry on top of that was that Jeff Bezos was able to defeat that shit. So fuck your housing, fuck humanity. What? You got homeless people? Who the fuck cares? I need to make profit. If you ain't talking profit, I don't give a shit. That's basically what he told Seattle. And you know what? If you don't give me my subsidies, I'm moving out somewhere else. Fuck your city. Give a fuck about your city. I mean, he literally had Seattle handcuffed. This shit is sick. But that's capitalism. This shit is not sick. This shit is capitalism, is what it is. So, anyways, you're right. So he was so desperate to protect his riches, which could buy every home in Seattle with billions left over, that he intimidated public officials over a tiny tax to fund shelter for the homeless. Maybe we should have a max income cap. See, I was, that's funny. I just mentioned that shit. Yeah, fuck that. Ban billionaireism. Okay? It's time to seize their riches for a better society where people have healthcare, housing, and education. See, the way I would do it, the reason I would ban billionaireism is that then there would be a billionaireist fund. Any money that goes over $1 billion falls into that fund. Now, how could we not fund housing, get everyone healthcare, Medicare for all, right? Universal single payer, Cadillac plans, housing, right? Get the homeless off the street. All these empty houses that we have out where people aren't occupying them because the banks rather rent them, rather keep them empty to bring up the price of the market in the real estate market. Done. Okay, education 100% free. You know, like yeah, that's the way it would be. All right, so the idea, so housing, education, the idea that anyone can become rich through hard work and dedication is a myth. Our meritocracy is a sham meant to dupe workers. One's wealthness is largely determined at birth. All right. The concentration of wealth under capitalism leads to mass underclass of poverty and suffering. How is that merciful? And all that believed were together. And this is a quote. Quote, and all that believed were together and had all things in common, and sold their possessions and goods, and parted them to all men, as every man had need. Biblical verse from the book of Acts, chapter 2, verse 44 to 45. From each according to his ability, to each according to his needs. A Marxist principle right there in the Bible. Acts. All right. Capitalism and its exploitative virtues isn't Christian. A new society needs to be constructed from the ashes of capitalism without borders, without prejudice, without social class. Only then can we secure the future for our children. Thanks for following along. What do you think of the Democratic Socialists of America? Okay, so I myself am a Democratic Socialist of America, LA chapter. So they're more of a reform organization right now. So the are technically a minority, but I think part of the reason why we are a minority in Democratic Socialists of America is because a lot of these uh, Democratic Socialists came into politics because of Bernie Sanders. So, like, if you're coming into politics from the American political nomenclature, structure, the checks and balances, legislative, judicial, executive, like you have a certain mind frame that you think is just and you think you can help reform, right? Without fully understanding that you can't reform a system within a system. Like that right there just is a no go. So what happens is when you get more radical ideas that start to trickle in, a lot of these people that are honestly, like in LA, I can speak for myself. It's DSA is a majority white organization, even though Los Angeles and California in general is not more diverse. You have a lot of white anarchist leaning tendencies, right? As we would expect, because um, anarchism, in some respects, is technically, no offense to my anarchists out there, got mad love for you guys, mad respect for you guys. I'm a revolutionary socialist, proud to be Marxist, Leninist, Chavista, so you know, and no one will ever change me from that. My solid foundation is so structured and cemented in that I wish more people could get to this state, because like even some people I considered to be quote unquote quote unquote woke, when Trump came in, they bought the Trump shit without understanding that Trump is himself working with production that requires the reproduction of profits within the system, that requires certain structures that require unemployment. Okay, you see, that's to explain to some people with that live within the capitalist system. The capitalists, especially when they want to solve certain things within the capitalist system, for example, a lot of these people that want to solve housing, right? How can you solve housing within a capitalist system when homelessness is profitable? How can you solve the problem of having people that are uninsured without healthcare when having people uninsured and without healthcare is profitable? Like that just does. How can you have a society without war when in reality war is a business and it's profitable? See, and that's that's something that a lot of democratic socialists, good-hearted democratic socialists, do not understand. You see, so they start going towards these anarchist kind of tendencies that make them feel good, like they're gonna do something. All you have to do is a revolution to change the system, and next day that's the no bullshit. Revolutions, I'm gonna tell you something. Capitalism took hundreds of years to get to the state it's in. Any ideology, and especially the state. The state is something that is completely misunderstood by not just democratic socialists, which we already said are more of reformists, let alone Democrats. Democrats think The state is just the country. That's it. That's no. Democratic socialists think the state is the police, the army, and the country. That's not what the state is. Well, first off, I'm going to start getting into so many different angles, but the state in reality is also the ideas that we have inside of the state, the authority the state has within the state, the allegiance. See, and this is the probably the deepest part. The state is the allegiance the populace has for the word and the law of that state. Okay? That's as cut dry as I could make it. And that just gets into so many different layers of the societies we live in. But, anyways, I'm probably going to go ahead and finish off the comments and close this out. This was supposed to be about the pink tide. I wanted to get into the have been happening, okay? Because there right now we know that there's a coup that happened against Dilma Rousseff, and we know that in Brazil. I'm sorry, I assume people know and shit. I need to explain myself more. And one of the former presidents was Lula da Silva. Lula da Silva was recently arrested on bogus charges about laundering money through some kind of car wash. They looked at the stuff. The right wing judges said, you know what? Yes, he's corrupt. Lock him up. A judge not really affiliated with any of the political parties said, you know what? That's not really what's happening. He should be free. Free him. Another judge comes in and says, you know what? This guy doesn't have the authority to do that. Lock him up. The guy repeats his, because he was the one that had the legal jurisdiction, said, you know what? No, you guys have 24 hours to free this man. Actually, he didn't say 24. I think he said 1 hour, actually. I got to recheck that. And then the army came in. Another guy came in and said, hold up, we don't know if we can do this. So even though they released Lula da Silva from Brazil, he still remains in jail. So see, that is part of what I'm talking about what the state is. Okay. That being said, finish these off real quick and see what happens. So what do you think? All right, I already told you. What do you think about Democratic Socialists of America? I think if there is a third party that emerges in America, it will be the Our Revolution faction of the Democratic Party, which is the most progressive, the most democratic socialist, and the most socialist contingent of that party, merged with or in coalition with Democratic Socialists of America, which are on their way to developing a party, right? And all the scattered leftist movements. Once there is a Democratic Socialist of America party and Our Revolution contingent coming together, that gap will be filled in by the Revolutionary Socialists, the PSLs, the Green Party. See, because right now we have too many bullshit third parties. Like, and I wouldn't even consider the PSL a bullshit party because they're probably the most woke. But we got like the fucking Workers Party. Okay, that right now Joe Crowley, who got his fucking ass kicked by Alexandria Ocasio Cortez, right? Ended up now he's saying, okay, you know what? She beat me. Motherfucker had a guitar, started singing bullshit third party line or some shit where you're like someone's just running third party and they're just gonna be like fucking brushed to the side. For example, like you got Brisport ran as a green. Motherfucker should have been a fucking Democrat. He should have ran as a Democrat. Because the movement, once again, it's not about being within or without right now. We're developing a movement. You can't develop a movement without a fucking base. You can't have a movement without a movement. So part of what happens is, like, if you look at Marx, he wrote the Manifesto in 48. you see when the first workers association, when the first international forum, 60s. Okay, so I'm just at 1860s. Okay, that, I mean, it takes time. Fucking before Lenin led the Bolshevik Party to victory, like in 1917, he had to, and in fact, he has writings where he talks about how leftists would go into church, into schools, to teach for free, to develop class consciousness within these no party preference, instead of running as a Democrat, where Bernie had already galvanized like a contingent within to run within the Democratic Party, give them some pull. She could have used that, but she didn't read the field right, even though she kept catering to this contingent, like the contingent could do something for her. Contingent couldn't do shit for her. She was running outside. She couldn't get endorsed. The best they could do is a no endorsement, which is a position of weakness. And my point in bringing her up wasn't for her failed run, or for her uh, erroneous conclusion of running no party preference, because most people are independent, not democratic. If you look at the demographics, they're not democratic, they're not progressive. I mean, they're not democratic, they're not republican, they're independent. So I'm gonna tap into that. Look at a Cadillac, you know what it is. A Mercedes Benz, you know what it is. You get some Converse, some Jordan. Is as soon as you run as a third party that has nothing, no history, no revolutionary ideology, that shit ain't going nowhere. That's why Alexandria Ocasio Cortez, I'm gonna say it right now, is definitely the future of the Democratic Party. Why? Because she understands economics. Okay, so you can't bullshit her about capitalism is this and that. She says, you know what? Uh, I'm a democratic socialist. What that means is I believe in a modern society. No one should be too poor to live. Who's going to be against that? And that's exactly what we're talking about. So that's one thing. Um, she is clearly um, the face of the movement, and the one thing that's so important about her, and I didn't even get back to the Gail thing. The thing about Gail, sorry to leave Ocasio right there. Gail, the Richmond Progressive Alliance, took like 14 years for them to actually get into the city council, them to get other progressives elected. So people want like a formula, like how do you do it? Okay, tell me. That's not the way it's gonna work. That's not the way it works. That's not the way it ever has worked. Okay, so sorry to be the bearer of reality news, but yeah. So now back to Ocasio. The important thing about Ocasio is not just that she won, not just that she understands economics, but that she understands her position within this revolutionary time, and that she understands she is a leader in the movement. See, that's one thing that a lot of people fail to understand, their leadership within the movement. And she understands it. So I think there. All right. So, what do you think about Democratic Social? I think I've been talking. That's how they got me into this rant right now. The candidate Alexandria Ocasio Cortez defeated the next in line to succeed Pelosi as a Democrat. That's true. You should do chats on Google Hangouts. Ben, why should I do chats on Google Hangouts if you're still there? And solidarity from Snohomish County DSA, north of Seattle. All right, Ben. Appreciate you. You know what? I'm gonna look you up. I'm gonna send you a friend request, most likely, because I'm actually on that list serve for the DSA Seattle chapter. Not the main chapter, but the chapter which has to do with some kind of some kind of organizational aspect that you guys were trying to do. Um, Easier to broadcast, and you can invite people, and it's integrated with YouTube for live broadcasting. Ben, I appreciate you a lot, my friend, my revolutionary socialist comrade, and I feel like I can say that after reading all those. I wish more people were like Ben. I'll say that much, um, because um, I felt a need to come on to try to explain a lot of things that I feel are basic, but I know that um, people will start gravitating towards things that they like, and they'll start asking, and I'll be able to kind of refine my message a little bit more. At the end of the day, I just want you guys to learn shit. Okay, I'm a reader. I like to read. I know people don't like to read, they hate to read and shit. So maybe I can use some of the privilege I've had, in consuming that information, and maybe help divulge it. I'm not an academic in the aspects of being able to break it down like maybe a Richard Wolff. But I think at the end of the day, maybe I'm not an academic, but maybe I'm a street scholar. And maybe street scholarism is what's needed, because even Richard Wolff, he's great. He breaks shit down. He's able to go on TV, expose people to Marxism. But what the fuck? He's over here just explaining reformism. That's not Marxism. He's over here, I'm a Marxist economist, and then he's over there explaining fucking co-ops and shit that work within a capitalist system. So I'm just saying though, like, it's important for you to be able to explain that shit and say, okay, but this is a pathway to what we want. Don't present it as the be all and end all of what we want. Okay, because that's basically what's happening right now. A lot of people, oh, co-ops, worker owned Look, if we're still working within the capitalist system, we're still gonna be fucked. Okay, so yeah. So appreciate that. I will be sending these uh, messages out to Ben. And lastly, his last comment was, all of these right wing live streaming scum use it. Why not us? And that probably is the best way to leave this conversation. Because you know what? That's the thing. We have the privilege to go ahead and broadcast. With this, you see this right here that I'm shaking right here? Think about that. We're, in a world where they're over there having to form associations, print out leaflets and all that, and we're over here with literally thousands of friends, and we don't even use our shit properly. Nah, like, yeah, great point. You know what? If these right wing live streaming scum use it, why not us? Last comment was true. Most of DSA organizing occurred on an ancient smartphone. Yo, Ben, appreciate you, and bless you, man. With that being said, I'll make sure I do another video on the pink tide that's more concise, maybe a 5 minute, just that get all the details, because the main thing we have to understand about that is that the U.S. imperialist military intelligence industrial complex has not stopped. Okay, and they have been able to successfully use the legal apparatus, the legislative apparatuses within certain countries' congresses to defeat us, where before they would come in with the CIA like they did in 1954 in Guatemala, and just bombard the shit out of the capital, bombard the shit out of any resistance, go in, bring the army in, take over the government, install the military dictatorship, and anyone that opposes the dictatorship just gets their whole family fucking annihilated. So, like, we also have to understand the differences and the adaptations that the imperialist powers are using. Okay, so with that being said, uh, Revolutionary Supreme Elohim, 1917, Che Guevara. I'm Gilbert, and I appreciate you. I'm out.